Looking out into the dismal dusk of New York City in 1947, we can see the decaying shape of what was once the spectacular Vanderbilt Triple Palace. This majestic, now deteriorating structure once symbolized riches and elegance. Back then, its chambers sparkled like diamonds, lit by gorgeous gas chandeliers and decorated with European artwork and gilded mirrors that reflected high society's great taste. These halls were once filled with laughter, crystal clinking, and spirited conversations, all evidence of the Vanderbilt family's meteoric climb to prominence. Today, however, the palace provides a striking contrast. What was once the peak of prosperity is now a husk of its former self, its grandeur replaced by a terrifying emptiness. The once vibrant passageways now stand motionless, smelling of rot and neglect. This once impressive monument to wealth now bears the unmistakable traces of time and apathy, a solid tower on the edge of being forgotten. When confronted with this tragic spectacle, one can't help but wonder how such a powerful empire fell. Join us as we discover how the Vanderbilt family went from old money to no money. At the start of the 19th century, a new powerhouse emerged in America's business scene, Cornelius Vanderbilt, also fondly known as the Commodore. His story begins in 1794 in Staten Island, New York, where he was born, the fourth child in a family of 9. Cornelius grew up in modest circumstances, a stark contrast to the immense wealth he would later accumulate. The roots of the Vanderbilt family trace back to Utrecht, Netherlands, in the small village of De Bilt. Here, Cornelius's great-great-grandfather, Jan Aertsen, a humble Dutch farmer, decided to seek a better life in New Amsterdam, the city later known as New York. Arriving in 1650, Jan Aertsen faced immense challenges, starting life in the New World not only without money, but also as an indentured servant. Despite these hardships, his efforts laid the groundwork for the Vanderbilt legacy, a name derived from Vander, meaning from, and Bilt, the name of his village. Cornelius Vanderbilt began his own journey to wealth at just 16 years old, when he started a ferry service between Staten Island and Manhattan with a $100 loan from his mother. This modest start eventually grew into a vast fortune, worth over $100 million by the end of his life, a figure that would be equivalent to over $200 billion today. Vanderbilt was a man of great determination and intelligence. He expanded his ferry operation during the War of 1812, serving government outposts around New York City. After the war, he pivoted to the steamship industry, aligning with Thomas Gibbons, who was known for his strategic insight. Vanderbilt had a keen ability to spot opportunities in emerging markets, and he quickly took control of both the steamboat and the burgeoning railroad industries, transforming the American landscape. His business strategies were particularly effective. He grew his markets by undercutting competition with low prices and venturing into new territories, demonstrating not just business acumen, but a visionary approach to industry and transport that would cement his legacy as one of America's great industrial titans. Cornelius Vanderbilt built his business empire on several key principles: customer satisfaction, efficiency, frugality, and strict penalties for dishonesty or laziness. Moreover, this agile titan was adept at navigating the ways of industrial change. His ability to smoothly shift from steamboats to railroads showcased his remarkable adaptability, a trait that was crucial for his enduring success. Vanderbilt was not just savvy in business, he was also known for his ruthless approach to competition. He was famous for his aggressive tactics that often crushed his rivals. Despite his reputation for being a man of few words, Vanderbilt was highly respected for his excellent judgment of character. He typically remained stoic in the face of criticism and was steadfast in his decisions. This unyielding determination and flexibility were key in amassing his vast fortune, making him one of the wealthiest Americans of the 19th century. Interestingly, Vanderbilt's personal lifestyle was marked by Spartan-like frugality, a trait he inherited from his mother. This deliberate choice in lifestyle set him apart from the glittering upper echelons of high society, creating a visible rift. However, unknown to the Commodore, a dramatic shift was on the horizon. His descendants, the heirs to the Vanderbilt fortune, would abandon their patriarch's doctrine of frugality. Instead, They embraced a life of extravagance and opulence, disregarding the lessons from their forebear. This marked a significant departure from Cornelius's principles and set the stage for a tale of epic downfall. The subsequent generations indulged in excessive spending and lavish lifestyles, which would eventually threaten the very existence of the Vanderbilt fortune. Their actions led to a dramatic story filled with missteps, excesses, and lavish spending, a tale as grand as their inheritance. This shift highlights a classic narrative of squandered wealth, underscoring how dramatically they veered from the path set by their industrious ancestor. With their great riches and industrious family history, one might expect the Vanderbilts to be a permanent icon of American old money. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Cornelius Vanderbilt's successors were thrust into a life of affluence and excess. This ill-fated adventure began with Cornelius Vanderbilt's son, William Henry Vanderbilt. Despite his heritage, William failed to impart the mentality of old money in his 8 children, some of whom grew up to be extremely spoiled. In his own financial affairs, William accumulated an estimated worth of $200 million by the time he died in 1885, effectively doubling his father's fortune. However, his explosive temper and mental instability cast a long shadow over his accomplishments, presumably influencing his parenting style in a generation notorious for its lack of restraint. Early family anecdotes, evocative of the dynamic in HBO's Succession, depict William's relationship with his father, Cornelius, like Logan and Kendall Roy's. Cornelius, frequently frustrated with his eldest son, referred to him as a blockhead and a blatherskite. William battled with his father's severe criticisms despite his determination to show himself. The turning point happened on a family trip to Europe in 1860, on a steamer named after the family. Following this road trip, the father-son relationship strengthened, and William began to play a larger part in the Vanderbilt corporate empire. However, once in command, William's unpredictable personality frequently sparked public controversy. One memorable incident took place in 1883, when journalist John Dickinson Sherman questioned him about his handling of the Limited Express train service. William's famed reply was, "The public be damned." This outburst not only demonstrated his contempt for public opinion, but also indicated a growing alienation from the fundamental ideas established by his father, Cornelius. This departure from Cornelius Vanderbilt's beliefs was a watershed moment for the Vanderbilt family. It forecasted the demise of their once solid empire based on discipline and prudent financial procedures. As the family deviated from these values, their story became one of spectacular excess and final failure. When William Henry Vanderbilt died, his sons Cornelius Vanderbilt II and William Kissam Vanderbilt took over the huge Vanderbilt wealth. This change represented a new chapter in the family's history, with a more convoluted allocation of their fortune. The large fortune, which was previously a rich source of resources, began to dwindle as it was distributed across an expanding family tree. With each generation, the inheritance was distributed to an increasing number of descendants. As additional family branches arose, the distribution of assets gradually lowered each individual's part of the once colossal family fortune. At the same time, inheritance taxes began to deplete the family's finances. Huge tax bills generated with every generational transfer drained the family's wealth. At first little, these tax consequences grew over time to take a sizable chunk of Vanderbilt's budget. With every generation that followed, this ongoing financial burden threw a darker shadow and progressively undermined the once mighty Vanderbilt fortune. Financial difficulties for the Vanderbilt family were made worse by several of their reckless choices. Not many of their ancestors had the financial understanding and economic knowledge that their ancestor Cornelius Vanderbilt did. Through high-risk endeavors, bad investment choices, and little interest in pursuing the family's business interests, they lost all of their money. These elements combined to undermine the Vanderbilt financial empire gradually. As the family's financial actions deviated from Cornelius Vanderbilt's sensible measures, their story became one of rapid and steady decline, transitioning from exceptional prosperity to major financial troubles. The Vanderbilt children liked living a very fancy life, which was very different from the Commodores. This made things even more difficult for them. Unlike their strict forefathers, the later Vanderbilts indulged in excess and splendor. They splurged on huge residences, extravagant parties, and expensive art collections. Such reckless spending caused the collapse of the once mighty Vanderbilt fortune. This downward cycle was exacerbated by a number of issues, including increased family size, high inheritance taxes, poor financial decisions, and unregulated spending. These components, taken together, cast a terrible shadow over the Vanderbilt dynasty. Their fortune, once a titan in the history of American prosperity, eventually faded into oblivion. By the mid-20th century, Vanderbilt's fame had fallen significantly in the American public discourse. The fate of their great Fifth Avenue houses, many of which were sold, demolished, or converted into museums only 30 years after Cornelius Vanderbilt's death, exemplified this decline. Regrettably, not a single Vanderbilt was listed among the wealthiest Americans within 50 years after the Commodore's passing. The end of an era of extraordinary affluence was signaled by the whole disappearance of the enormous Vanderbilt fortune, which had long been a symbol of tremendous riches and distinction. Now let's look at the main factors that contributed to the Vanderbilt wealth's decline and compare it to another family, who was able to pass down their money through generations despite having built it in the same era. Consider this hypothetical scenario. Consider the scenario in which a key figure in a multi-billion-dollar family empire becomes ill unexpectedly. The CEO, an outsider in the family, has already named a COO as his successor, but the board is divided and the company's financial health is deteriorating. This raises worry among board members, and without their unanimous support, the search for other CEO prospects becomes critical. Adding to the intricacy is a new board chair, a family member, and another family member and controlling shareholder vying for the position of CEO. While this circumstance may appear odd, it exemplifies the intricate maze of succession in family-owned enterprises. The Vanderbilt family's story represents this circumstance. The spread of their money during the third generation coincided with the decline in interest in their primary asset, the New York Central Railroad, as well as an increase in expenses. The Vanderbilts were well known for their philanthropic efforts, particularly William Kissam Vanderbilt of the third generation, who donated millions to numerous causes. However, the imposition of income and estate taxes, combined with the family's constant spending, hastens the erosion of their fortune. During their wealth accumulation, there was little business regulatory supervision, giving them complete control over whole industries. They thrived in an era before income and inheritance taxes, accumulating a massive fortune without government interference or financial constraints. As society standards and government rules changed, the Vanderbilts encountered new problems. There was a greater emphasis on controlling monopolies and commercial practices, which added another degree of complication to keeping and expanding their money. The Great Depression compounded the issue by damaging the American economy and severely affecting the Vanderbilts' assets and economic interests, resulting in a major decline in their riches. On the other hand, the Rockefellers were very smart about how they kept their money safe. John D. Rockefeller established generation-skipping trusts to ensure that wealth was passed down through generations. A generation-skipping trust allows substantial sums of money to be passed down tax-free, often bypassing the children and going directly to grandchildren. In the Rockefellers' case, they were able to conserve and grow their wealth by directing it to future generations, rather than spreading it among immediate descendants. This strategic planning allowed them to avoid many of Vanderbilt's difficulties. However, after several generations, the Vanderbilts needed a solid core business to protect their trust holdings. Their technique often involves passing assets down directly from parents to children in each generation. With each generational transfer, this strategy exposed their wealth to additional inheritance taxes, leaving their fortunes subject to each inheritor's extravagant spending habits. In contrast, the Rockefellers avoided these issues by arranging their wealth transfer through generation-skipping trusts, ensuring their family wealth's long-term preservation. Another trait that set the Rockefellers apart was their strong family values, traditions, and institutions. In a rare interview, David Rockefeller Jr., chairman of Rockefeller & Company, spoke about the family's goals and practices. These tactics help the family stay together and keep their money, and they are practical examples for any family trying to instill solid financial values in their children. Surprisingly, the Rockefeller family has remained largely united, free of the public scandals, feuds, litigation, and tragedies that so often afflict wealthy families. David Rockefeller stated that the family currently consists of over 250 direct descendants of John D. Rockefeller and Laura Spelman Rockefeller. We meet as a family twice a year, often with more than 100 of us in a room, for example at a Christmas lunch, stated Rockefeller's father. At age 21, family members are invited to events known as the Family Forum. They discuss the family's future plans, new additions, job developments, and other major milestones. They make sure that everyone feels like they are part of the family, even those who have married into it. The Rockefellers also believe that preserving family history is crucial. They accomplished this through the use of familial homesteads, which have been passed down through generations and allow them to reconnect with their past. I can go back to the place where my great-grandfather lived over 100 years ago and see how he lived, and see how his son and their grandchildren lived, according to David Rockefeller. Such activities show the many tactics that equally affluent families took to wealth preservation, demonstrating how the Rockefeller strategies successfully preserved their legacy. Despite the fall of their once great fortune, several members of the Vanderbilt family have managed to carve out prominent and impactful roles in society. Gloria Vanderbilt, for example, is one of these descendants. She was born in 1924, the daughter of Reginald Claypool Vanderbilt and Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt. Gloria's early upbringing was fraught with personal issues, including a highly publicized custody struggle between her mother and her paternal aunt, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney. Despite these early obstacles, she became a prominent artist, fashion designer, and novelist. Gloria Vanderbilt's persistence and determination to forge her own path in life earned her widespread appreciation and devotion. Throughout her life, she was both a bright personality and a successful figure who made substantial contributions to society. She became a fashion icon, known for her distinctive style and the hugely successful Vanderbilt jeans line. One of our old money luxury fans recalled meeting Gloria Vanderbilt at a New York art show in 2003 as an unforgettable experience. They stated, "I met with Gloria Vanderbilt at a New York art show in 2003. She was elegant, well-bred, polite, soft-spoken, and greeted me with a big smile. Her hair, makeup, and clothes were impeccable and understated. Her teeth and complexion were perfect. I'm so glad I met her. I've read her books. She lived appropriately. She was an iconic figure who needed protection from devious people at her level of wealth. Gloria had educated and skilled acquaintances, including designers, performers, singers, lawyers, teachers, and business owners. She adored her boys, Anderson Cooper and Carter Vanderbilt Cooper, who experienced their own hardships growing up as Vanderbilt descendants. Anderson Cooper, a well-known journalist and television personality, has frequently discussed how his family's background has shaped his life and career. His experiences as a Vanderbilt descendant affected his worldview and public presence, influencing his approach to journalism and public involvement. Anderson Cooper has frequently expressed gratitude for the opportunities his family's history has offered him, highlighting the value of hard work and self-reliance. Anderson's brother, Carter Vanderbilt Cooper, tragically committed suicide at the age of 23, leaving the family heartbroken. The current financial situation of the Vanderbilt descendants varies, as the once vast family fortune has diminished dramatically over time. Many descendants have pursued careers ranging from journalism to fashion, accumulating riches and success independent of their family's history. Despite the family's lessened riches, relics of their prior wealth and prominence can still be seen at its historic properties, such as the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina, and the Breakers in Newport, Rhode Island. These properties are a tribute to the family's tremendous riches and fame during the Gilded Age, and continue attracting visitors worldwide. The rise and fall of the Vanderbilts teaches future generations the value of smart wealth management and strategic estate planning. The family's history demonstrates the risks of excessive spending and poor investing choices. Furthermore, the Vanderbilt heritage emphasizes the value of tenacity and adaptability in overcoming obstacles. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you think history has been fair to the Vanderbilts or too harsh? What are your thoughts about their legacy? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. As always, we appreciate your continuing support at Old Money Luxury.